Good evening, everybody. I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation at the annual Radiotherapy Practicum and the WCI workshop. Today, I shall be discussing my topic under the following subheadings to help identify and describe what is done in functional imaging in the Department of Nuclear Medicine and how we use it in our daily practice. We shall be discussing the skeletal lesions, different types of functional agents that we use, the contrast agents in nuclear medicine, and its therapeutic aspects and clinical issues. So, as we all know, when you have to identify a bone, we either use a radiological imaging or a nuclear medicine imaging. And what is the difference between these two is that in radiology, you have a transmission scan, that is the radiation which is emitted from the machine, which is then reflected back and images are captured. Whereas in nuclear medicine, the patient is injected with the radio tracer and what radiation is given out is captured by the machine, hence the name emission scan, and an image is obtained. So because we are discussing functional imaging, what is the function of the lesions that we see on a bone? One could be an osteoblastic lesion, that which is called a sclerotic, where the osteoclastic function is increased. Then is the osteolytic, where the osteoclast function is reduced and it is visualized as a hypodense lesion or a mixed, where you could see both. And since we're discussing functions, how would you evaluate the function of all these lesions in a nuclear medicine department is how we are going to discuss it. So when we talk about bone lesions, the first scans which come to our mind when you send a patient to a nuclear medicine department is a bone scan. So what we commonly use for a bone scan is a phosphate component of the bone is what we tag using technetium 99 NDP. And what we identify is the increased function of the bone, which is visualized as an increased tracer uptake, as you can see over here. But like we said, we are assessing the function. What if the function is reduced? That means you would have an area which is not showing uptake, which would be visualized as a photopenic area. And that means an area which has less function would not be very easily visible. It will appear as an area of less tracer uptake. Let's look at this panel of pictures where you see uptake, abnormal uptake in the humerus of all the three patients which are shown over here. It is very difficult, although you can read the pattern and try to identify what this uptake could be. It's very difficult unless you have an additional imaging where if you see in this patient, you see that there's an infiltrative lesion which is seen on the X-ray component. Here you see that there's a enchondroma in this head of the humerus which is showing uptake, whereas this uptake is because of a degenerative change in the head of the humerus. So what we know that a bone scan is very non-specific. It will show increased tracer uptake due to multiple reasons, and we need an additional imaging to help identify what that abnormal uptake is. And that's why we come to a term called SPECT, which is conversion of this 2D image of a bone scan into a 3D image. And we try to identify where exactly this tracer uptake is. And we are helped if we add a CT component to it, where we call it a SPECT CT, to be able to decipher where that abnormal tracer uptake is. So we have this bone scan, which we are not very confident because the uptake is not very great. The soft tissue is high and our confidence level is not very high in identifying if there is any area of abnormality, though these marked arrows try to tell us that there's maybe a relative increased tracer uptake. So if we had another tracer, which is injected in the same patient, where we are more confident in identifying this abnormality in the ileum and the other one in the sacrum, and plus we've identified another one or two lesions, we are much happier and more confident. And what is this new tracer? A tracer which is giving you a 3D picture, which is giving you better tissue clearance and also giving you an anatomical imaging along with it. This bone scan is using a PET tracer called sodium fluoride. So this is still a bone imaging agent, but instead of a 2D, it's a 3D because we used a PET CT along with it. And because there's a CT component, we also have a CT data. So we are one step better than an MDP bone scan, but we are still non-specific, but much higher sensitivity. Like we said, this is still a bone imaging agent and will still have the pitfalls which you see on a bone scan. But because of its higher resolution and increased tracer uptake, you might have a better visualization of the gray zone to be able to look at more clearly at that anatomic site to see if there's an abnormality. And if it creates a reaction, then the rim along the lytic lesion is much better appreciated. So we now discussed two modalities in diagnostic nuclear medicine, the gamma camera, where the scans available are 2D and which have a lesser resolution. You can increase this by having a SPECT or a SPECT CT, and another imaging, which is the PET CT machine, where you get PET scans, which are a 3D imaging modality, which has a higher resolution, has the added advantage of an anatomic correlation along with it. So coming back to the differences, let's see what is this tracer which we are talking about. So we have a common tracer which is injected in radiology, whereas there's a specific contrast injection which is given in nuclear medicine. This term contrast is a misnomer for nuclear medicine because it's not actually contrast, it's a radioisotope, a radio tracer which is injected and which is not the same for all studies. It is actually a compound which is a radioisotope and a tracer. So this radioisotope could be gamma emitting, as we saw as technetium-99 MDP was where technetium was the gamma emitting, or it could be fluoride, as we saw in the PET CT, sodium fluoride bone scan. And what is this tracer? This tracer is like an investigator, which we are trying, as the name says, it's going to try and help you trace the function of that region, of that organ, or of a tumor. So what tracer you use depends on the clinical question you want to be answered. What are you actually searching for? Whether it's a response, whether you're staging, whether you're looking for something new and a specific site. So depending on this, a tracer is utilized. If you're wanting to look at the function of an organ, you would normally want to use physiological components, as in these scans where you do a HIDA scan for evaluating the liver function, where you would use something which is similar to bile, that is the HIDA, or you would use a DTPA for a renal scan to evaluate the excretory function of the kidney, where DTPA is an inulin analog, or a DMSA, which only goes to the cortex to evaluate the cortex of the kidney. But when we are evaluating a tumor, we have multiple targets which can be traced on the tumor, and depending on what target, maybe the protein on the tumor cell or the antibody on the tumor cell or an analog which we can tag along with the radioisotope. We could also tag the tumor microenvironment. So what we need to actually know when we're looking at tracing a tumor is the pathophysiology and the molecular pathology of that tumor, because knowing that, you could trace or tag any of its component and its analog. So the common radio tracers which are available in our armamentarium is an MDP, DTPA, MUGA, tagged to technetium as a gamma agent, or a FDG, which is tagged to fluorine 18, or an FES, which is an estradiol tagged to F18, or a dotatate, which is a somatostatin receptor tagged to gallium, or a PSMA, which is a prostate specific antigen and tagged to gallium. We shall discuss this in the next few slides. Coming to FDG, which is the workhorse of a PET CT department. We all know that cancer cells utilize 4 to 5 times more glucose, and there's an overexpression of GLUT receptors on the tumor cells. And it is this pathophysiology which is utilized when you use a FDG scan. What is FDG? An FDG is an analog of glucose, which is taken up in the same way as glucose is taken up, but it gets trapped because it's not overacted by the glucose 6-phosphatase enzyme, and hence you will see an area of increased glucose tracer uptake as a hotspot on an FDG scan. Here, the tracer is fluorodeoxyglucose, like I mentioned, a glucose analog, and the radioisotope is fluorine 18. So what do you do with an FDG scan? As we all know, the function of the area under evaluation is assessed to see whether there's increased glucose uptake or there is decreased glucose uptake. We do evaluate this quantitatively by looking at an SUV, which is a ratio of the uptake at the site of interest versus the injected dose. In terms of evaluating the bone, an FDG is a very sensitive and specific modality because it not only picks up the cortical lesions, but also picks up early skeletal lesions in the form of marrow, where you have not even had significant marrow density changes taking place to be identified by on a CT scan. As you can see in this image, you see that there is an focal uptake in the sternum in this patient. But if you see at the CT component of that sternum, there is no abnormal, no marrow replacement seen. And that is where FDG scores a higher value. We must remember that the uptake of FDG is dependent on the density of glued receptors on the tumor cells, the number of cells which are present, and the size of the tumor. And we'll tell you why. Because, like in this case, there are certain sclerotic lesions of CA breast which might not be identified on an FDG because of an absence of higher density of glued receptor. And then you can see that this patient who is evaluated with an FDG does not show the sclerotic lesion which is seen on a bone scan and on an MR. So to recap what we learned till now, we have two types of tracers, a gamma tracer and a positron emitting tracer. Sclerotic mets, which can be identified using bone seeking agents, but lytic and mixed lesions are more better picked up with an FDG scan. The advantages of FDG would be, a scan would be because of its PET, the CT component, which helps you characterize a lesion and increases the specificity, and also its ability to detect marrow lesions, which are early skeletal lesions. So everything is not black and white. FDG is sensitive, but it is non-specific. You might have false positives, and which you will be able to try and become more specific by using the anatomic imaging to characterize and pattern recognition. But you might have a false negative when you know there is a lesion and there's no FDG uptake. So what we decided, we are trying to investigate. So we could change the tracer and again look at the tumor and see, if not FDG, what are the other physiological or pathological components of the tumor cell which you can identify and utilize. There are multiple tracers in evaluating tumors which are sensitive but not specific, and we will not discuss all of them like FLT and FET, but we will now move to the tracers which are more specific to tumors, like the PSMA, which I mentioned earlier. This is a imaging where we utilize the knowledge that the prostate cancer cells have an antigen called the specific antigen on its surface, and we can use ligands which are going to go and tag to this antigen on the cell surface, like the gallium PSMA11, the INT, or the DCFCB. So there are different ligands which can go and bind to the PSMA molecule on the surface and which can be tagged with gallium-68, and you could identify. So what is the advantage? It not only is it sensitive, but it is specific because it is specific for the prostate tumor, and it is useful both in locating the nodal as well as the bone mets and any other sites of metastasis. Its biggest impact, we all know that evaluating bone lesions response on therapy is a little difficult, and if you see this panel, you can see that the sodium fluoride or any other bone seeking agents will continue to show increased tracer uptake because the healing mechanism is sclerosis and it will always be positive, but a PSMA scan, if the tumor has responded, will be negative, which is a true sign of a response. The next specific tracer, which we all know, is in neuroendocrine tumors, where you know that there are somatostatin receptors which are present on the cell surface of neuroendocrine tumors. And if you tag an analog of somatostatin, you will be able to locate the sites of the tracer. So what is being done is gallium-68 is tagged to a somatostatin analog, which goes to the tumor somatostatin receptor on the tumor surface, and you can evaluate the patient. Coming back to the contrast, we found that we had diagnostic tracers like technetium, fluorine, gallium, but what if, and which were tagged to the tracer. But what if we replaced these tracers, radioisotopes, with isotopes which are beta emitting or alpha emitting, which were cytotoxic. And then what you would have is a therapeutic tracer, where you would have the same tracer now tagged with either a beta or an alpha emitting radioisotope. So that forms the basis of radionuclide therapies, where the earliest indication was bone pain palliation, where you used bone seeking agents, which are radioisotopes by themselves, and you treated patients with multiple bone mets. In the present era of theranostics, in nuclear medicine, we have those same tracer, the specific molecule which we're going to tag against a specific target on a tumor, where you first diagnose the disease with diagnostic radioisotopes and replace these diagnostic radioisotopes, keeping the same molecule with a therapeutic radioisotope. Like if you looked at what the previous examples were, we had DOTA, TATE or TOC, which was the common molecule, which was tagged with gallium-68 for diagnosis. And if it is replaced with lutetium or yttrium-90, you could treat the patient. Similar way, PSMA tagged with gallium-68 for diagnosis and then replaced with lutetium-177 for therapeutic option. So to recap, based on what function is to be assessed, we could select the radio tracer. The commonest tracer in PET-CT is an FDG. Tumor-specific agents, what we mentioned were PSMA, DOTA, TATE, TOC against the somatostatin analogs, estrogen analogs for breast, or Herceptin antibodies. There are therapeutic radioisotopes available, which could be beta or alpha emitting. Let's move to clinical practice, how it helps us now that we know all the types of radioisotopes which we have available in our armamentarium. This is a case of a bone scan where you see that the bone scan is normal. This patient underwent a CT thorax abdo-pelvis, as is done in our hospital for staging a lot of patients of CA breast. And the CT scan showed lytic lesions at the L5, both in the anterior aspect as well as posterior. And you can see that very clearly even on the transaxial image. So we know now that there were lytic lesions, the bone scan is negative. The CT helped to characterize this patient and said that this was a bone scan negative, this patient is yet a metastatic patient. So what we need to remember, lytic lesions, hemangiomas, osteoporotic changes, and cysts may not show uptake on a MDP bone scan. And then you might need to have CT for its characterization, which might not be done if the lesions are subtle, or you might need to go in for further evaluation with an MR or a PET scan. Coming to another case where you had a bone scan which was done for this patient, you had a focal uptake seen at the L5 and in the iliac crest. But what is this focal uptake? This was given as possibly metastatic. So when you did a CT of this patient, you saw better that this was actually a hemangioma in the L5. There was a lytic lesion in the iliac bone. So there was both a false positive as well as a true positive picture. For reasons further, because the radiology as well as the clinicians were not convinced whether this was truly an hemangioma, an FDG PET was advised for this patient. And you could see that this patient has that lesion in the iliac crest. The hemangioma is not showing uptake, but this patient has multiple areas of marrow lesions, and hence this patient was metastatic, not only at the one site which was seen at the iliac crest, but at multiple other sites as in the dorsal vertebrae and in the bilateral femur. Coming to a scenario in the radiotherapy department where you are doing a planning CT for a case of a known oligomet, and you know that there are more number of lesions seen than at staging on your CT scan, which is done for a planning. You go, this is how it appears. You see sclerotic lesions. You try and then go back to review the old scans and see whether these lesions were actually present earlier and they were missed. These are the new lesions which you're seeing. And what you identify is that this lesion which was there in this dorsal vertebrae actually was a very small subtle lytic lesion, whereas this lesion which is in the iliac was not seen at all, and that this was actually probably a marrow lesion which is not identified on imaging. So we need to know healing of skeletal mets is usually through an osteoblastic mechanism and might be seen as sclerosis as new lesions. So whether these new lesions are actually truly progression or healed lesions, it's very difficult to identify, and that's where FDG is usually asked. So this is a panel where I would like you to just see that this is a staging scan of a patient where you can see a very small subtle area of increased tracer uptake in the left acetabulum, which is seen in this lytic lesion. This patient, after finishing the NACT in March 2021, healed, where you can see very small areas of sclerosis, but also I showed a new lesion of increased tracer uptake in the cervical vertebrae, which did not show any significant abnormality on the CT. So probably this was a marrow lesion. This patient was further treated with chemotherapy and then was sent to our department for a treatment evaluation, where you can see that this lesion has disappeared, telling you that it has healed. But if you can see that there is no sclerosis, and now there's a new lesion, which is increased tracer uptake, and now it is showing you a lytic area. So what this tells you is not always everything is clear. You might have, so an FDG scan is generally negative on a healed lesion, whether it is lytic, whether it's sclerosis, as seen in this picture. Positive uptake could tell you that there's a new lesion, but we are not very confident. So what this positive uptake could be, we need to know healing may not show sclerosis. Positive uptake is possibly METs, but it could also be something else. Like over here in this patient, you see an uptake in a patient who's treated. And if you look at this, this uptake is seen in the intravertebral region. There's a soft tissue associated with it. And this is not bone met, but this is a COX. So the CT component is very necessary when you have a positive PET scan to rule out and differentiate metastasis versus a common entity of osteomyelitis, more likely to be COX, where you have a soft tissue component along with an intravertebral uptake. So the take-home message is MDB bone scan is a good imaging modality to identify sclerotic or osteoblastic lesions, but you may miss lytic lesions. FDG is very useful in detecting both sclerotic, lytic, as well as marrow lesions. Hybrid imaging is a very useful tool because it helps you characterize the lesions. Generally, when you're evaluating patients for treatment, reviewing all the imaging together rather than one person seeing one imaging modality and somebody else seeing the other, it helps decision making easier when all of the imaging modalities are considered together. It is generally a multimodality management which is helpful. Thank you.